forgot. Oh, there they are. Could not find my glasses so that I can look at this tiny little screen. So I decided I should probably start putting a label on my broadcast because until everyone gets a routine down, some people might forget which day it is that we do what classes online. So today is Tuesday, it's 11 a.m. and that's when we do the Unix class, CSCI 25. Good morning to everybody. If you call it morning, I still do. It's Axel, Kitty, and Jooms, Justin, Lurks, and Zach. Good morning. Zach, that was totally an awesome Vim tutorial post. But I think it really just set a brilliant tone for the whole discussion boards and the kind of contributions that we're looking for. So I very, very much appreciate that. And if you're here or you're watching the video later, it's really exciting to see how much you guys have already sort of taken ownership of the discussion boards, and people have already gone on there and gotten help for a problem. And you can just it really makes a difference how much you guys sort of put yourselves into those discussions. And I think your class is already showing how much you can get out of it. So good on you for doing that. Tim, good morning, Tim. I missed you in the first roll call. I was just looking at the list there. So good morning to everybody. And again, I was just saying, singing your praises for how good you do those discussions, which is really spectacular. Some really good contributions already. So thank you for doing that. I hope that what you'll find is that you're making your own experience that much richer for it. I know you're going to get tired on occasion of doing those discussions as I try to use that small tool to kind of give us, all of us, a chance to sort of speak to the rest of the group and ask questions and stuff. So I will give you breaks on occasion and put a poll up of some sort. But anyway, really, really great so far. I have posted 4 weeks of material, and I will get at least 2 more weeks in the next few days. If my dream comes true, I'll have through week 8 by Sunday, but it takes me a long time to produce the material for this class, as it turns out. So I'm doing my best. There are 4 weeks worth of material out there, so I will always stay at least 2 weeks ahead. But my plan is to complete the whole semester's material as soon as possible. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is the home page on Canvas. The one thing I'll tell you is that both team projects are going to be effectively the same. I haven't put them together for you to look at them yet, but what the team projects are about is that you will collaborate with a small group of people to evaluate a distribution of Linux or Unix. I hope some of you will do a Unix, like FreeBSD or NetBSD, which are very, very similar, but they're not actually Linux. So it would be fun to see some people experiment. But anyway, your small group will agree upon or have assigned to you a distribution, and you will sort of work together to evaluate it. So you'll install a virtual machine. You'll see what's pre-installed with your virtual machine. You'll see what the package management tool looks like. You'll look a little bit at what are people using that particular distribution for. As an example, Ubuntu. We're using a variant of Ubuntu, but that's a very popular basically workstation distribution or desktop distribution that people use for their normal working lives. And there are other distributions that are more focused on doing server activities, web servers, file servers, those kinds of things. So that's what the 2 team projects will be like. There will be a template, a document that your group will collaborate on filling out. Tell me about the package management system. Tell me where the distribution is commonly used, those kinds of things. So that's coming soon. I think that when I get the week 6 material, that's when the first team project will sort of be brought to life and be linked into stuff. So should be this week that you can see what the team projects are going to look like, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, we are in week 2. And I'm going through it this way, just if you don't have the routine down, just so you can see an approach to how you might go through the material. So the goals of the week. So Ubuntu actually has, we can install CalSay, which if you've done CalSay before, I know it's silly, but it's fun, and it's a way for people who haven't worked on the command line before to do something that feels a little bit friendly to them, and it encourages you to explore command line options and things like that. So that's why CalSay, and also it lets us use the package manager in Ubuntu. We're going to talk a little bit about what is the shell, and our shell specifically, which is the bash shell, and then we'll play around a little bit on the command line. So that's the plan for this week, for today. And then links to reading. So I try to use the PDF books as much as possible, but when they don't have all of the detail that I would like, or I think that they come up a little bit short on a good explanation, I will link in additional reading. So this week, for example, I thought understanding sudo was easier if you went off and read a short article on that at Geeks for Geeks. And then I also have another article linked in to help give you material for contributing to this week's discussion. And like always, when we get done today at about 12, I have to export my Twitch video over to YouTube, and then from YouTube I download it to my computer, and then from my computer I upload it to a captioning service. And once all those steps have been completed, then I post the links and I embed the videos. So later today, this lecture that I'm doing right now will be embedded here in this page, and it will also appear on the videos page. Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm about to refresh my Twitch and see if it's just on the browser end. So yeah, it appears to be. My wife is also a Butte College teacher, and this is the one time a week when we actually overlap each other. But I wanted to give you your lecture during your class meeting time, so it's possible that she's competing for bandwidth. But it's usually not a problem. Okay. I'm not going to go, and I typically won't unless there's questions, go through specifically the questions on the lab assignment. There's almost always going to be 20 questions. This week there are 19 questions because one of them is a 10-pointer related to CalSay. I will in my lecture though, so what I did right before I came on and started broadcasting was I went and reviewed the questions to make sure that I would talk about the major issues that are being discussed. But I write the questions on the lab from the readings. So if you have the readings in front of you, you can find the answers, because that's how I got the questions, is I read and then wrote questions as I was reading. Okay, so I'm actually going to switch over now and bring up my Linux system. Oh, yeah, it's going to happen, Crotan, once in a while. Missing one or two a week is but I know it can kind of like needle at you a little bit, like but remember also, like I dropped the lowest two, so if you do all 17, then you have some leeway to sort of drop your less perfect weeks. Okay, so here's my Linux virtual machine. This is a Ubuntu system, which is a derivative of Ubuntu, which is a derivative of Debian. We'll get into more of that later. We'll actually do a pure Debian later in the semester. If you've been around Linux for a while, by the way, Debian is said Debian. It's named after Ian and his wife Deborah, the guy who started the distribution. So I'm pretty sure that it's probably Debian. Anyway, once you start it up, so I had already opened VirtualBox. I already clicked Start to launch my Ubuntu virtual machine, and I just wanted to remind everybody about the login here. You type password, so PASSWORD, and then you press Enter to log in. So there's no button that says login. You just press Enter after you've put your password in. Just going to check to make sure it's not breaking my screen. Oh, it's quite large. Why is it? Hold on, I'm gonna. Oh, that. Okay, I want to rearrange the screen because I want to see myself a little bit. You may not want to, but I want to know that I'm visible. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we are in the virtual machine. I hope that you take the time to look around a little bit, particularly if you're new to Linux. I gave you a graphical system to start with, and then on the next round we're going to do CentOS, and we're going to take all the graphics off and just work in text. But since you have a graphic system, you might look around just to kind of see what's in here and play with it. We are only really interested the whole semester, by the way, with the terminal. So I'm going to launch the terminal, and I'm just going to do a bunch of stuff in here and talk about what this thing is. So the main job of this terminal is to show me my shell. I'm going to open up the text editor, and I'll just put keywords that I'm saying as I say them. So better. So I'm going to start with the concept of the terminal. Now, we often use a lot of these terms interchangeably, so I'm going to try to be technically correct for a second. Technically speaking, the terminal is really just this window with the screen in it that's capable of typing text. So inside of this terminal, my shell is running. And my shell is a command interpreter. Now, there's a whole bunch of different ways to say this, and you're going to see other concepts. You'll encounter other concepts when you're doing the reading, but the main job of my shell that's running in this terminal is to accept commands that I type into it and then print output based on those commands. So a simple one that we play around with often early in the semester is the date command. So I'm going to type date into my shell, and then when I press enter, the shell will take that and discover an executable for date. It's a program, and then it will show me the output of that program. So there's the output of the date program or executable. So the shell does a whole bunch of things. But one of the things that it does, and its most basic thing that it does, is it will let me type a command into it, and then I press enter, and it will execute that command and show me the command's output. That's the basic thing that it does. Okay, another thing about what's going on here in the shell. In some ways, this shell, this terminal screen, is a different way of viewing my operating system. And what I mean by that is if I use the graphical tools, if I go down here and I click on this folder down here, click on this folder down here. Oh wait, no, it's this. It's the little file box. Sorry. This file box. So if I click on this file box, what this is showing me is my account's home folder on the system. very much like you see in Windows, of course. So inside of my home folder, my username is user, are these contents. A bin folder, whatever that is, we'll get to that. My desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures. So these are the contents of my home folder. And the terminal is also anchored in my home folder. And there's two ways that I could prove that. One of them is to use the ls, or the list command. So I'm going to type ls, press enter, and you'll notice that the listing in the terminal has the same contents as what the graphical view is showing me. So there's the bin, desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, templates, videos. It's the same thing. So another way to sort of see think of what the terminal is it's really just your view of the system right now. So my view of the system from the perspective of my own home folder. And you can see the contents are the same with the listing command. Another way you can do this, by the way, is you can say PWD, which stands for Present Working Directory. I'll put that here. LS is list directory contents. PWD is print present working directory. So I'm going to type PWD into the shell, press enter, and it's going to print out the result. So the directory that I am presently working in is /home/user. We'll get to the slashes and stuff pretty quick, but not today, but in the next couple weeks. This is my location in the system right now. And if you look over here at the graphical window, you will see /home/user. This is a view of the same location on the system that I'm seeing in the terminal. So in addition to allowing me to enter and execute commands and see the output of those commands, the shell is also letting me move around the files and directories in my system in text, as opposed to by clicking icons on the desktop. So I always like to show people that. To me, it's very empowering to know that, oh, you mean you don't even need this? And the answer is you don't. Yeah, you don't need this graphical view if you know what the shell and the terminal sort of work together to give you. All right, so there's that. So these things that I'm about to talk about are going to be more easily digested if you sort of slow down on it over the reading. But I want to talk a little bit about what the shell can do. So the shell, you can use it to view your location and the contents of the directory that's your location in the system. It will interpret commands. You type commands, you press enter, and it will cause outputs. The shell also is kind of like a little programming environment. So you can, for example, let's see, you can make what are called shell variables. So I'll just show you an example of that. So I'm going to make a shell variable. So this is a way of storing data inside of your shell environment. And I'll say that for lunch, I already know what I'm having because my wife's going to go get it here in a second. I am having a sandwich, super exciting thing to have for lunch. But I know, I shouldn't complain. And plus, I don't have to go get it. Okay, so I've actually just embedded that data into my shell, my working environment. And I can retrieve that data with the echo command. So I'm going to echo, and notice here I use the $, so that's how I can get the data back. And there's my lunch variable. So let's just say what the shell can do. The variables are not going to seem super useful until we get to the scripting portion of the course. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about what can the shell do. It's actually a very powerful environment, even though the text makes it look like there's probably not just a whole lot going on. But it turns out that there's a lot going on in here. So I can interpret my commands. It allows me to move around the system and look at different directories. I can create variables to store different kinds of information in it. I can do math. Inside of the shell environment. So I'll just give you a quick example. So this is the word let. So I'll say let x equal, I don't know, 39 plus 3. Oops. I should have probably, let's put quotes around it. Okay, so I just did some math. Now if I use that same echo, so what I've done actually is created a shell variable called x that contains the result of adding 39 and 3. Yes, it does. So Crotan asks, is there a random number generator in the shell? And there is a random number generator in the shell. I may have to look it up to remember exactly how to do it, but there is, so we'll see if we can figure that out. So there's x, which is the result of doing the arithmetic, 39 plus 3. Let's see if there is a random. So there is. I cheated, by the way, because I used one of the commands from your lab this week. So what is a command, and you can tell it to go and see if it can figure out any helpful information about something. So when I typed what is random, it actually gave me 3 options. And it's the last one that we're interested in. Let's try this. And let's see if we can get help on random. So it looks like it would be available, but I don't have it installed. Maybe it means it's a game. Anyway, I'll come back to that, Crotan, in a bit. Like maybe we'll add that at the end. We'll go hunt down how to generate random numbers so I don't get people too overwhelmed. Okay. But there is. It would appear that there is an ability. I know there is. I just don't remember exactly how to get it. But we'll go cheat and use the Google and find that out. Okay, so you can do math. It will also clear the screen for you. There's 2 ways to do this. On your homework, it's going to ask you about the keyboard shortcuts. That's Control L, I think. Yeah, Control L. But you can also type the word clear. So let me do a date. You can also type the word clear, which is the way I usually do it, to clear the screen. So that's handy to know. You can also create aliases. In Windows, you know these as shortcuts. But you can create shortcuts to other commands. And I'll just show you a quick example. These are, it's mainly used for games. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? But I'm pretty sure, Crotan, that like we can use random inside of the shell script, which is we should totally, when we get to scripting, we should bring back that idea. Okay, so we can create aliases, and those are shortcuts, and I'll just show you a quick example of that. So we have the date command as an example. Now that one is not particularly hard to remember, but let's just say for argument's sake that you would rather use, you would rather type today and have that give you the date. Now notice if I type today, that's not even anything that exists. If you get command not found, that means that your shell could not find anything that matches the command that you typed in. Okay, but an alias gives me the ability to say, you know what, when I type today, I want that to actually be an alias for date. So I don't like the way I just can't remember date, let's say for argument's sake. So I can create an alias, and now when I type today, because that's my preference, it's going to fire off the date command instead. So the shell will also let you create aliases. Now this one I'm not really going to go into, but I'm going to separate these out. In fact, the shell also has a fully featured programming language built into it. So if you've done a little bit of scripting or programming, then this will make sense. If you haven't, don't worry about it. I'm just sort of listing out for you some of the features of the shell. The shell will let you create functions, and if you've taken a programming class, then you've probably created and used functions. You can create functions using the shell's programming language. You can create scripts, which are basically shell programs. They are lists of commands. So you can actually create a file and you can put a whole bunch of commands in that file and have them all automatically execute in a series. So the shell is a programming language for all intents and purposes, in addition to its other features that it offers you. And this is another one, or again, I'm just talking about the features, and we'll explore the features in greater detail later. You can do some customization inside the shell. So you can have things automatically happen when you first log into the system, or when you're logging out to the system. You can actually customize your shell to trigger actions when you first log in or when you log out. You can change what the shell is printing out by default. We call this the prompt. So one example of customization would be to change the prompt. And there are others, but it's also, not only is it sort of a built-in programming environment, it's also a customizable environment. And a way for you to execute commands in your system. It does everything. It's really, really great. If you know the shell, you don't really need to know anything else to be productive on your system. Okay, so that's my super, super quick introduction to the shell. And then what I haven't said is there are a whole lot of shells in Unix. The one that we are using is called bash, which stands for the born again, so a person's name, a shell. So that is this shell. You can figure that out, by the way. That information is actually being stored inside your shell. So if you echo $shell, it will tell you which shell you're in, and this one's bash. So we use the bash shell in here. Probably I will encourage you in team projects to try other shells. I personally use a different shell in my normal working life, but I've used bash most of my life, most of the time. This particular shell, which is a piece of software, of course, is very, very, very popular across many Linux distributions. So if you learn how to operate inside the bash shell, if you learn how to customize it, if you learn how to program in it a little bit, doing scripting, if you learn how to create variables in it, then you're going to find that whatever shell it is that you might choose to use later, or someone asks you to use, you're going to find it very easy to quickly get up to speed in another shell. Sorry, my back's starting to cramp just a little bit. Okay, so that's sort of part one, just a quick introduction to the shell. I'm going to leave it off with this sort of closing comment. Think of the shell as your user interface. This is the way we are going to interact with our virtual machines all semester long, is through the shell. That's really what this course ultimately is how to be productive in a text-only environment. The reason you'd want to do this, I think in part, is because power users all know how to do this, and once you've learned how to be productive in the shell, you will find that it's faster than operating in the graphical user environment. You just know the command, you type it, you hit enter, and off you go, as opposed to clicking links and clicking folders and going through wizards and all those things. The shell is just much faster. But there's also environments where you don't have a graphical user interface. I don't know if any of you have ever sat down to configure a Cisco piece of hardware, but there are ways to access Cisco hardware with no graphics, just with a shell, basically. So there are some computing environments that you might encounter as an IT professional that may not have a graphical user interface available to you, but they will have a shell where you can execute commands and do productive work. And if nothing else, it's just neat. I just think it's neat to work in text only. Okay, so it is our user interface, and it is a super powerful user interface once you start to develop some muscle memory for it. Yeah, indeed. So Crojan said, even in your office environment, and I totally agree. On my own machine, I should say it a different way. I always have my terminal open because I do at least half of the things that I do every day in the terminal environment, just because it's so much faster to do it that way. So yeah, even for me on my graphical desktop, where I surf the web and play the occasional game and stuff, I still use the shell and always have it open. That's cool. Will it allow you to use a command for an alias name? Yes. So Justin asks, can I make an alias of a pre-existing command? And you can. So I could do, so heads up, if you're watching the video, you may not want to do this. It'll cause a small inconvenience, but I'm going to answer the question. So can I make an alias? Let's say that and don't do this to your users if you're an IT professional, because they will hate you for it. But I can alias the ls command to be date. So Justin, there's a hierarchy here. So in the shell, it will prioritize. It'll sort of work down a list from top to bottom of what's more and less important. So aliases are actually more important to the shell than system executables. So if it finds an alias as it's working its way down that list, it's going to use the alias instead of skipping ahead past that to find the actual executable. So if you alias a system command like this, it's going to, alias comes first. So when it sees ls, it's going to go down this list. And it's like, I see ls in the aliases, which is a higher priority. So I'm going to execute that. Now I've kind of set myself up on purpose. So you can unalias things. So you can unalias ls, and then ls goes back to the old thing that it was. Now, you may notice that what ls is doing has changed, because ls actually already was an alias, and I'm going to show you that. But you can unalias an alias. Now, what we've done so far, the easiest way to unalias is you close the terminal and then restart it. I'll move this to the other side. That'll also give you some graphical variety. Let me squish this up a little bit. Okay, so if I do ls now, you'll notice that it's coloring up the output. So if I do what is ls, Actually, is it which ls? I'll look at it. Let's see if it's which ls. No, it's not that. I need to... Oh, I know what to do. I know what to do. So I want to show you, though, why is ls doing that. If you type alias says... is it not? Is it just alias? Oh, alias. Sorry. If you type alias without creating an alias, it will list the present aliases that are already there. So it turns out that when you install Ubuntu, it actually presets some aliases. And one thing that it preset ls is to colorify its output. So if you unalias ls, you're actually losing this part as well. So that's why it was colored. So by default, you get a few aliases for free. LL does something, LA does something, a single L does something, and then grep, F grep, E grep, and alert all do things. So there's a few aliases already in there. So let me go back over that since we talked about it. To create an alias, type alias, and then what you want to call it, and then what you want to alias it to. So I want today to redirect to the date command. And then when you type that alias, now it runs the date command. If you want to see what aliases are already in there, you type alias with nothing following it. And there you'll notice my new alias. Now there is a way to make aliases be sticky, but for now we're not going to do that, just because we don't want anyone to cause anyone any problems. And then you can unalias an alias by saying unalias and then the alias. And now when I type alias, the today alias is gone. That's all the bash shell offering me that functionality. Okay, so that's the bash shell intro. Yeah, so you can, the question is, can you do a multiple word alias? And you can. So, and the single quotes is how you do that. So you can say, so there's like a multi-word alias, and the single quotes around the ends of it are what make it possible to sort of put some spaces and sort of group together a bunch of stuff into one alias. So yes, you can do multiple aliases. So what I did there is I just used the echo as the command to have the shell print something that you want it to print. So I just had it print the message hello Boyd and alias that to today, and there's the hello Boyd. And I can use the alias command to see that that's how it captured it. So anyway, the single quotes is how you do that. You can do special characters. You have to be careful of them. So the single quotes, in most cases, should disable the special characters and allow you to use them in your aliases. Usually, special characters can be a little funny, so just experiment with it. And you'll kind of get a feel for when and how different special characters are going to behave or misbehave. Okay, so that's more on shell capabilities. Oh, by the way, I do want to show you this. If you type the word history, now this comes up again later, but I just wanted, if you type the word history, the shell is actually keeping a history of all the commands that you've typed, going back pretty far by default. So the shell is also keeping a command history, and one of the reasons why that's useful is because you can use the up arrow on your keyboard and you can cycle it back through old commands. And once you've gone up, you can use the down arrow to come back down to the end. So that can be pretty handy. You can use the up and down arrow to kind of move back up and down through your command history and recall earlier things that you have done. Or you can just have the shell show you the whole listing of the commands that you've typed. Oh yeah, package management. I need to do package management. So we have a thing. Let's just see how Ubuntu does this. So there's a really fun little, at least I like it, little command called calce. And if you type it, I hope I didn't install it. Okay, this is what you should get on Ubuntu as well. So calce is a program, and it's just a sort of a cute and fun program that doesn't do anything meaningful, but you'll see it's kind of fun. So it'll tell me that calce is not found, but in Ubuntu it actually recognizes that this is a piece of software you can install. And there's two things in that output that are important to us. One is sudo and the other is apt. And you're going to read about this, so I'm not going to spend tons and tons and tons of time on it. But the sudo part is, if you're a Windows user, sudo is pretty much the equivalent of run as administrator. So my account right now, this user account, is a non-privileged user. This is not an administrative user. And as a non-administrative user, I can't just install new software on the system. So in most Linuxes, you can temporarily elevate your privileges, run as administrator, with the sudo command. The way that I say this, by the way, is superuser do something as the super user or root, the admin user. So this temporarily, for one command, elevates our privileges so that we can do something that we would normally require administrator privileges to do. And you're going to see, by the way, when we get to CentOS that not even this will work out of the box. So we're going to have to elevate our privileges so that we can install the calce software. Now this apt is a package manager. In our case, it's a package manager it's the package manager for Ubuntu. It's also a package manager that you'll find in a few other systems. So apt is a package manager. And what we mean by that is a program to install, update, remove software. That's its job. So in a Windows environment, whenever you download a piece of software, it comes with as an executable typically, and you double click it and it runs through a whole installation routine with pop-up windows and stuff. That's not the typical way that software is installed in a Linux system. So in a Linux system, most distributions have a database of software that goes with them. And the database is housed on the internet. So when you want to install a new piece of software on a Linux system, typically what you need to do is you need to go retrieve that software from the database on the internet and download it and then install it on your system. So that's what that's what we're about to use the package manager for, apt. It's going to fetch a piece of software over the internet. It's going to install it onto my system, and then I will be able to use it. Once it's installed on my system, I can actually use apt to update the software if it gets updates, bug fixes, those kinds of things. And I can also, if I want to later, use it to remove software that I'm no longer using. So everything about installing, maintaining, removing software installation on this Linux system we're going to do through apt. So sudo to elevate our privileges, apt, which is the package manager that allows us to install, update, remove software. We want, in this case, to install a piece of software. And then what we're going to install is calce. And I'm actually going to go through a remove and then reinstall just to show you how that works. So let's do it and see what happens. So it's going to ask you for your password. Now this is not the root password. This is the user password. So it's my own password, PASSWORD. Notice it's not gonna, nothing's happening here. That's how it's supposed to work. It's a security measure. to not show how many characters you're typing, so you have to be very careful. If you mess up, it's fine. You can just retype it. It'll say bad password. Let's stretch my window out so we can see all that stuff. Okay, so let's see what happened. So it's doing a little bit of kind of reading the software database and trying to figure out if CalSay is reliant on other pieces of software. If you're a gamer, then you've no doubt installed one of the, what do they call those things? Like one of those .NET portable package things. Anyway, so apt, the software, the package manager tool, is actually looking to see what CalSay needs to function properly on my system. By the way, if apt discovered that CalSay needed other software, it would automatically pull that down too. So it tells me, okay, I'm about to install CalSay. It goes out and it downloads it across the internet from the package database. It extracts it, more or less comes in something like a zip file, and then it does the installing of it. So that's the whole process of installing software for us right now. That's your first use of a package manager if you're new to Linux. If you're not, then you've probably done this before. So what CalSay does is you can make a CalSay stuff. It's kind of silly, I know. There's CalSay. You might notice, by the way, if you look on my Twitch stream and my videos, I use this because I like it. Okay, so we've installed CalSay. I'm going to remove it real quick and then reinstall it just so you can see the package manager in action. So I need to elevate my privileges. I'm going to use the apt and I'm going to remove CalSay. And again, this is just an example to show you that apt, the package manager, also lets you remove software. Sometimes, in fact, most of the time, it's going to ask you to confirm. So, am I sure I want to do this? Yes. So it's removed CalSay. So now if I type CalSay, it's going to, I don't know CalSay. So I'm going to have to reinstall it. I'm using the arrow key, by the way. So I'm not going to retype that. I'm going to arrow, 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 arrow until I get to the install, and I will go ahead and reinstall it. So there it is. Arrow, 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 arrow. Working again. Okay, so there's Package Manager. Now let's do the last bit, and then I'll let you explore it. Getting help for commands. So we just installed CalSay, which means that we now have the CalSay command. If I type CalSay and hit enter, by the way, it just sits there because it's waiting for me to tell it what to say. So in this case, by the way, I'm going to have to press Control D to tell it I'm done typing stuff. So if I do CalSay with nothing, then you have to type a message, and then Control D when you're done. Okay. Anyway, so getting help for commands. So we have this CalSay command, and it can do a lot more. So let's look around and see if we can figure out what information we can learn about this new CalSay thing that we just installed. So one really basic thing that you can do, and this one's not super helpful in terms of getting help for how to use it, but I want to go through these. So I can type which CalSay, and what that does is it tells me where the shell is actually locating that executable. So if I were to navigate to the games folder, I would find CalSay, the executable, installed there. So that's nice to have. Like, where is it installed? It's installed in the games folder. So you type which followed by the command that you're curious about, and the shell will tell you if it can find it where it found it. You can type what is calc, and it will give you sort of a brief of what it is. So it's configurable speaking thinking cal, and then it dots because it was too much to fit on the screen. So what is gives you a very, very brief description of a command. And by the way, let's see what is. So it displays a one-line sort of manual, a one-line description of what it is. Okay, so what is? Also, often, commands will come with a help feature. So you type the command and you do -- help. In Windows, this is often like a / question mark or something. So if I do calc -- help, I'll stretch the terminal out so we can see it all. And I'm going to have to type Control-C to kill that and try it again. So it does have a help. It's weird though because it kind of gets stuck on the screen. In fact, no, that's a mess. It didn't do anything except for this part right here, which is totally not helpful. So in this case, help is not helping. So Control-C, if you don't know Control-C, if you get stuck somewhere, Control-C. But many commands will have a help feature. We've used ls, so let's see if it has a help feature. ls does have a help feature. In fact, it's a lot of help on the ls command. So that's one to try out. The last one is the manuals system, which you access by the followed by the command you want the manual for. So if I do man for the manual for calc, this is the full-on sort of user manual for the calthink. I might have to try calthink. This is the full-on manual page, which tells you all of the different things that it can do. So apparently there's something you can do with its tongue. This file thing we want to explore, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can possibly do. We'll try a couple. The point here really for you guys this week is to understand that there is a manual system that gives you detailed instructions about how to use different commands and maybe, but I don't think there is a help list, but maybe. I did ls -- help. Oh, you're right. That may be weird for ls. You're right. Okay, anyway, so here's the manual. I was actually using the scroll key, but you can also use the arrow keys to scroll down. So it tells you what it does. Generates a ASCII, which would just mean text, plain text. Picture of a cow saying something provided by you, the user. If you don't give it something to say, I'm about to type Q to quit. I'm going to read. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll just use the arrow to scroll back up. Okay, anyway, so here's what it does. And then there's a whole bunch of options, line wrapping options. You can have Borg mode. You can have the cow appear dead. That's a little dark, but we'll try it. Borg, dead. Greedy, I don't know what that means. I'm going to try it. State of paranoia and stoned. That's. I mean, we might as well try some of them, huh? Tired cow. There's a bunch. Let's try them. So these dashes are giving me options. So let's try. I don't remember any of them. Well, -D. So hello. Void. Let's see what it does. So you see the little X's in its eyes. That's dead cow. I think there was Borg mode. So it's got the little Borg eyes. T, I think, was intoxicated. So the little eyes. So anyway, this is a thing that this is kind of. I thought, it's just kind of a fun way to get used to typing commands and playing with options. So I'm going to clear and I'm going to bring up the man page again. And I want to show you sort of the fun part. So there's a lot of options in there. There's the dash B, the dash D, the dash G is greedy, whatever that is. Paranoid, stoned, tired, wired, I guess, as opposed to not tired. Y brings on the cow's youthful appearance. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of different options that you can play with, and again, that's just kind of because it's a fun way to get used to doing commands at the command line. You can change their eyes with dash E specifically and make whatever eyes you want. This is the part that I want to play with, which is dash F, which lets you actually change the picture of the cow. So we're going to keep scrolling, and we want to know what are the possible cows. So what I'm looking for is something that talks about cow files. Here it is, files. So user share CalSay cows has a set of cow pictures in it. So you'll see this in the video, but I'm going to go list the contents of this directory right here, user share cows, and see what other cows there are. I'm in the wrong place. This is what I want. So Q to quit a manual page. It's also printed at the bottom. Q to quit the manual page. Let's list user share CalSay cows. So there's a whole bunch of cows, different cow pictures that you can use. So I just did so CalSay, we're trying different options. We're going to try a different picture, which is the cow file. So let's try that. This is just for people looking at it later. I think I can squish this down a little bit more. Okay, so I'll try a cheese. So CalSay, and the way you switch out the cow file or the picture file is with dash F space, and I'm going to say cheese. You don't have to put .cow, I'm pretty sure. You just say the name of the cow. So there's Bunny, Calvin, eyes, and then whatever you want the cow to say. So there's a big cheese saying hello Boyd, which I have to say I enjoyed. I'm going to use the arrow keys to cycle back up to my listing so I can see those pictures again. Guys, turkey, turtle, tux, unipony. I'm going to go unipony. Hiya Boyd, that seems more unipony-ish. Oh my goodness, it's giant. The unipony is giant. There it is. There's Hiya Boyd. That's a giant pony. Now that my screen's bigger, I'm going to try that one again and see if it... Okay, that's better if you stretch the screen for the unipony. One more. So I use the arrow keys to cycle back up to that listing of cow files, and I think I like flaming sheep. All right, so again, CalSay is a little bit silly. What is Mufasa? I think I put a note in the lab, by the way. If you have kids at home or people, you probably got a sense from reading the manual page. This is, some of the CalSay people are a little sarcastic, so you might want to try these out without a person whose sensitivities might be insulted before you do that. I've seen CalSay installations that have pictures that not everyone would like. I'll say it that way. So anyway, just sort of be thoughtful about that if there's someone around. Try out the CalSay pictures before they look over your shoulder to make sure that it's not something that they might not like. But what is Mufasa if I say hello boy? That's a pretty cute cow, actually. Okay, so the whole point of the CalSay exercise is to give you a chance to look at a manual page, to give you a chance to sort of get comfortable typing commands. I also think it's just a little bit fun to do this. CalSay's coming back, by the way. because we'll use it when we start customizing our environment. Is there a lion cow? Probably on the internet you can find other people. There's a Vader cow. Okay, that's CalSay. There is a question. It's a 10-point question. It's really just getting you to share with me the cow picture that you chose to prove that you actually kind of figured out how to do this. If you've used Unix, then this is probably not that big a deal, but I always have fun doing it, so hopefully you do as well. Okay, so it's 12, and that's everything I got. I might go do a Google real quick and see how do we do a random number in the shell. But that's the bulk of my show. Everything, the rest of this is just bonus content. So if you want to stick around, and I'm going to spend, I hope, no more than 5 minutes, hopefully less, Googling how do I get a random number out of the shell, or do I need to install something? I'm going to figure that out. So anyway, if you're checking out at this point, thanks for being here, or thanks for viewing the video later. And also, just really, really huge props to your whole class. You've all been so terrific in the discussion and supporting each other and being friendly and getting questions and answers. It's just the greatest thing. So I'll probably just keep going on and on about that, but you've just been so great about that. And hopefully I don't ruin the discussions for you by making it really, really burdensome, because it's really been great. So I appreciate that, and hopefully you'll keep that up. All right, that's the official end. Now we're into bonus content. So I'm just going to stay here inside of my virtual machine, and I'm going to Google it. So, and I'm going to be, it may have, I'm going to find that out, but I'm going to use bash shell in front of my Google search, random number, and I'm going to see if there's anything that looks easy to do, because there might be a shell. Oh, I saw something. All right, let's try it. I saw something. Ha-ha. There you go. So it's a built-in shell variable. So the shell's already doing that, randomizing stuff, which is super, super awesome. You know what we also need? So I'll show you one last trick because we're just about. So you notice how these are giant? You can actually get those. Why am I? Oh boy. Come on. It froze on me. Well, I'll put it over. I think it'll let me still use my text editor. So if you're interested. I'm frozen. I am frozen. I'll cheat. I'm going to cheat. My system froze up, but I will cheat and do it inside of my own actual native terminal. So I'll show you what I was going to do real quick and then broadcast over. So what I was about to do. Okay, here we go. So I'll just work from my own terminal. I think it's just a coincidence. I'm running, this isn't a super powerful laptop, and the broadcasting software is probably pretty heavy, and I probably have some other things going on. I've got an elbow camera hooked up in case I wanted to draw pictures, which I guess I could kill that piece of software off and get some RAM back. Okay, so here is my shell in my own system. Let me hide CentOS. And I'll show you what I was going to do, because if you notice, the numbers can be quite big. So one thing you might do is use a let. So I'll just say I'm let like rn for random number equal So you can shave the number down. So let's just say you want, for example, numbers between 0 and 99. This is what this would do. If you do this, you're going to get numbers between 0 and 99. So this number up here is sort of the upper limit from 0 up to 1 less than that number, which is a way to, if you're playing around sort of doing any kind of sort of something fun like a gamey kind of thing, you could do that. So that you don't get giant numbers, instead you get smaller numbers to work with. Okay, so awesome. Thanks for asking that question, because I'd forgotten about the built-in variable for random, and maybe we can do some kind of small game when we get to the scripting section of the course. You can use an alias to assign a conditional function. Yeah. Bash is amazingly powerful. I would try that and see. Yeah, I imagine it would. Oh, that's sick. That is sick. Yes. I bet you can. I used a let, but let's try alias and see what happens. Oh my goodness. Oh. I have to say, oh, you'd have to do this. X equal. That's a harder one. I'll leave that off. Leave that for your own experiments. If you solve it, though, I'm curious to see what it is. Drop us a Piazza a note or something like that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for me before I close this broadcast down and start moving videos around? Okay, that was fun. I hope some of you had fun. Okay, so I will see. Thank you. I appreciate it, Amarok. Thanks, everyone, for being here. And if you're viewing later, thanks for viewing this. And thanks for the questions. And thanks for the fun ideas. I will see you next Tuesday at 11. There are, if you're stuck on something, there's Piazza, and your class is so great at stepping in to help out that you're probably going to get an answer real quick. But you can also do a Confer Zoom sort of office hour type meeting with me, or drop me a message in Canvas inbox. Yeah, next Tuesday. I'll see everyone then. I'll be loading more content as fast as I can. So going as fast as I can so that if you like to look ahead, you'll be able to do that. So everyone have a great rest of your week.